Hello. Welcome to another edition of Talk About Turks, People and Places, brought to you by International Turkish Video and Film Center. I am Dr. Tamer Acikalin, President-elect of Assembly of Turkish American Associations. Assembly of Turkish American Associations is an umbrella organization for 52 other Turkish American associations in the United States. My co-host is Professor Justin Rudelson, Professor of Anthropology at Tulane University. With us today we have His Excellency Ambassador Nuzhet Kandemir, Ambassador of Turkey to the United States. Welcome, His Excellency. How is your visit to New Orleans so far?
Well, thank you very much. It's good to be here with you all. My visit so far was very useful, very short, unfortunately, and I shall be leaving tomorrow morning. Nevertheless, I was able to meet a number of our American and Turkish friends, and tonight I shall be together with our Turks and Turkish Americans living in this area, and I hope I shall be able to come back to New Orleans as often as I can.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, well, I'd like to ask, in the last few months, Turkey has celebrated its 71st anniversary of its founding, and I'd like to ask you, what are the 3 or 4 most important accomplishments that Turkey has made during the last 71 years, and also what are the few most important tasks that Turkey has in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, Turkey during the last 71 years has had so many accomplishments that really it is difficult to enumerate only 3 or 4 of them. Turkey is a big country, being a bridge between the East and the West. Turkey is a country now of 60 million inhabitants, which will be 70 million by the turn of the century. And Turkey is as big as 3 times Italy. So people in the United States do not visualize all the time what Turkey is, what role she can play, and what the Turks are able to do. And furthermore, Turkey is a democratic country, a secular country, believing in a free market economy. I think that speaking about the achievements during the last 71 years, we can talk about the democracy, secularism, and the free market economy. These are the 3 main achievements, so to speak, that the Turks were able to get.
That's very interesting. The world has been going through a lot of changes with the collapse of Soviet Union, and we know that Turkey has been a member of NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which defended us from the threat of Soviet Union or Eastern Bloc. With the collapse of Soviet Union, of course, there has been some changes in geopolitics, and Turkey happens to be at the center of it. What do you think, what kind of challenges or what kind of opportunities these changes bring to Turkey?
Let me tell you this. With the collapse of the Soviet Union and the emergence of Russia and a number of new republics out of the ashes of the Soviet Union, it's not yet time to feel ourselves secure enough in this world. In the post-Cold War era, there are too many challenges that we shall be faced with in the years ahead. It is true that during the Cold War era, Turkey was one of the staunch allies in the region of the United States and of the West in general. being a member of NATO, being in the European context, a member of a European community, since we are the co-founders of the Council of Europe. Therefore, Turkey is Europe and Middle East at the same time. We were trying to keep the security of the West in the region where we are. It is a very volatile region. And with this,
it is kind of like bad neighborhood, so to speak.
well, we unfortunately,
there are a lot of conflicts.
unfortunately, one cannot choose all the time one's neighbors. You see, so we are, we have to live with them, and we do not have always best of the neighbors. This is true. Nevertheless, the Turkish foreign policy was to have good neighborly relations with all the countries surrounding us. And we were able to carry on this policy so far, and there is no reason why we shouldn't continue with it. To come back to your question, that the roles are changing and Turkey perhaps has lost the importance or her importance vis-à-vis the West, I do not share this view at all. And I believe that in the post-Cold War era, we have to be more cautious. We have to be more vigilant.
So you are saying that although in the past that the sides were defined in East versus West, and it was kind of like a solid sides, now it's more like a quicksand?
Well, it is. It is indeed, and this is a good definition of the situation. Before, we knew the enemy. We knew the size of the enemy, and we were able to take necessary steps, necessary measures.
Less predictable.
Now, the challenges are unpredictable. So we have to be ready to face those unpredictable challenges, and Turkey is going to play a key role.
So that what you're saying, when the Soviet Union collapsed, this bloc politics ended, Turkey actually almost got drafted into an even more important leadership role than even before.
This is what I meant.
I think that this view was also expressed by some Turkish ministers at the same time in the past.
Well, if they have expressed these views, they were right. And the West must see to it that Turkey remains a stable, a democratic, a secular country, which will set a role model for the whole set of newly independent emerging republics around us.
That is another. I don't want to capture the whole thing, but I just really think that there's something I want to ask right at this juncture. You know, when we look at the television movies, or when we look at the depiction of people in the Middle East and so on, and we talk to people when they say we are Turkish or Turkish American, they always have this image of Turks. Oh yeah, they say they are fighting people, they fight this and that. But it is my opinion that Turks are becoming more from a fighting type of people to trading, peaceful type of people. And how does this play a role in their relationship with the emerging Central Asian republics like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, and so on?
We, the Turks, when we fight for our independence. We fight for our honor. We fight for the well-being of our nations. We are not fighters just to fight with the others around us. So this is something which we have to point out at the outset. And in the past, when we were fighting shoulder to shoulder with our American friends, with the coalition forces, it was for a just cause. It was a fight against aggression. And if there is any similar aggression even today, we will certainly fight. But this fight will not be for nothing. And we are very keen in preserving our territorial integrity, our sovereignty, our independence, as much as we are very careful in terms of the maintenance of the others' territorial integrities, sovereignties, and independence. In the past, unfortunately, during the Cold War, starting with Korea, there have been a number of crises we, together with our Western allies, had to deal with. And in those dealings, we were in a role of fighters, good fighters, and therefore there was an image about the Turks to be good fighting people. Okay. And also, our relations with the United States were for many years defense-related, mainly defense-related relations. But now, after 71 years, Justin, you have been alluding to, Turkey is a partner in every possible field of activities, not only in the field of defense, but economy, trade, culture, political military affairs, in every possible field of activities. Therefore, people will have to understand once again who the Turks we are, not only fighting people, but also people with whom they can do business.
Right.
And one of the things I'd like to touch on with Central Asia and the development there of independent states, we have 5, 6 new countries that are 5 new Central Asian countries, several others that Turkey is working with. But we have Turks essentially stretching from the Anatolian Peninsula all the way into China.
Turkish belt.
So it's a Turkish belt, a Turkish...
like we say in this country, Bible belt.
Well,
we're talking about a Turkish belt.
It's a huge opportunity for a Turkish trading bloc, cultural interaction, and because in the past the Soviet Union was in a position of preventing Turkey to have an influence in those areas, it's no longer there. I'd like to know what Turkey's strategy is in that area, because it no longer seems to be passive. It's a lot more active in the last few years.
Yes. Well, regarding the new Turkic republics, we have to be very clear on one point, which is very important. Turkey has no aim, no objective beyond the ones to set a good example for our brethren in those countries. Turkey is happy in the frontiers where Turkey is nowadays, and we don't have to have a sort of a belt or a sphere of influence. We cannot do it. It is outdated. What we are trying to do is to help them culturally, financially, and to set them an example, which is an example of democracy, of secularism, of free market economy. Because around us there are some other examples that they can look at and they may be able to take. No one can be forced to adopt this pattern or the other one, this example or the other one. But I believe that in the mind of the people in the new republics, what is good for them, for their future, is the example of Turkey. Therefore, we have a responsibility of showing them what we have been doing so far, what were the reasons of our sufferings, so that they do not suffer the same way that we have suffered for the last 70 years, to put it very bluntly this way, and to be helpful to them in terms of Latin alphabet, in terms of Turkish, English, culture. Culturally speaking, they are very advanced people, so we don't have to teach them too much. We have also something to learn from them. So it is a both-way traffic. Don't consider ourselves as being in a privileged position of teaching everybody something. This is wrong, and this was wrong throughout the history. This is wrong because in the mind of some Europeans and even some Americans, they think that they have many things to teach, but not to learn. It is a wrong idea. We have to teach and learn at the same time.
I'd like to shift just for a moment as we talk about teaching and learning to the United States and perceptions of Turkey. As ambassador, I think one of your missions is to create a better atmosphere here so that Americans can learn more about Turkey, become more interested in it, and perhaps allay some of the, or put to rest some of the stereotypes that Americans have about Turkey. What are you finding to be some of the biggest barriers to that understanding of Turkey that Americans may have?
You know, when I travel in the United States, and I do it briefly, but with a very intensive and overloaded program, each time I speak, each time I contact Americans at large, not only in Washington, but throughout the United States, I find the people who are ready to listen, to understand, and to learn more about my own country in this case. What they do not know, in doing business, for instance, they do not know the right addresses. So we have to provide them with the right addresses where they can write, they can correspond, and find some counterparts in Turkey. What they do know wrongly is what they have been told throughout the years by the anti-Turkey lobbies in this country, that Turks are barbarians, Turks are doing this, Turks are doing that. So they are sort of brainwashed throughout this misinformation campaign carried out against us. But fortunately, during the last decades or more than that, we learned the rules of the game, and we are playing the game sometime even better than those lobbies. And the moment Americans learn that they have been misled throughout the years, they become much more friendly towards us. In the long run, we are going to gain and they are going to lose.
So that brings us the subject of tourism. A lot of people go to Turkey, and could you tell us who goes to Turkey and what Turkey has to offer for a visitor? Like, especially like, is it a safe place to visit? How safe it is? How does it compare to a German tourist visiting Miami?
Mm-hmm. Turkey, first of all, is one of the safest countries in this world. I can say this with a true conviction. In Turkey, irrespective whether you are a man, a lady, a children, you can go out and go for sightseeing during the evenings after 10 o'clock or midnight without any fear, without any doubt that someone is just going to do something.
Like mug you or something.
That's it.
They're not going to
Anyway, and Turkey is a country which offers lots of beauties, natural beauties, plus best of the accommodations, because we the Turks, we have been investing very heavily in our tourism industry for the last 20 years. Now Turkey, particularly the Turkish coasts, are full of 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars hotels, motels and accommodation. The best in Europe, I can say, because I'm just speaking basic upon my own experiences. I'm sure that you have had the same experience.
As a matter of fact, you know, like where I come from in southern Turkey, in my hometown, there's a Sheraton, which is really immaculate. It's beautiful. It's 5 stars.
That's correct. And furthermore, the prices compared with other European countries for the same services, if not better, are nearly half of the prices you pay in those countries. So it's very cheap. Particularly for package tours, you see the prices are down at such an extent that it is amazing. So,
And the climate?
and the climate is, of course, at least 8 months a year, wonderful.
Sometimes when they speak of Turkey, people think that maybe it is like desert-like and, dry, arid, and it is not like that.
Oh, it's not like that. It is one of the most beautiful countries in the region, and there are quite a few Europeans, starting from the Nordic countries, Germans, British, Italians, Spaniards. Can you imagine Spain, which is the paradise of tourism? Now the Spaniards are coming to Turkey for various reasons, and including some of the reasons I have already mentioned. And Turkey offers everything: archaeology, history. If you are a simple tourist who would like to sunbath, okay, lots of sun.
How about food?
And the food. One of the best Turkish cuisine you can find there, really. The food is marvelous. And you can put on some weight. Be careful if you do.
But that the people came out with some information. They said that the type of food that the people eat in Mediterranean must be the healthiest food for the body. But maybe this would be a good area to ask His Excellency about the effects of Islam. Turkey is, of course, a people with Islamic people, country with the Islamic people, and so when people watch here Middle Eastern people and Islam, and they're always seeing some Muslim terrorists hijacking planes and so on. And how does the Islam in Turkey differs from Islam in, for example, in Iran or Islam in Arab countries? And there are certain movements right now coming out in Egypt and Iran, and how is it affecting Turkey?
Yes, Turkey is a Muslim country, but Islam in Turkey is not the Islam of a fundamentalist Islamic country around us. Islam, we are a secular country, therefore religion and the state are two separate things, two separate entities. And we do not mix a religion into our daily life. And it is true that there is some misconceptions in the mind of the people. When you talk about Turkey, a Muslim country, immediately they make some associations in their mind. Turkey, Muslim, fundamentalist, Khomeini type of a country. Be aware. No such a thing exists.
This discussion about Islam and also something to which you alluded to earlier, that being that Turkey is European, and that I know Turkey has applied for membership in the EC, now the EU, and has not been accepted. And in general, Americans and Europeans, I think mainly because Turkey is a Muslim country, cannot accept it as part of Europe. And it seems as if that has placed Turkey slightly in an identity crisis. Europe or Middle Eastern, perhaps wanting to be European but not being allowed to be European, almost rejected.
You're saying that Europeans are less tolerant than the Turks
I'm saying
was
that,
ever?
I'm saying that it's difficult when you have spent a good part of your history being part of NATO and other organizations where you feel a part of Europe to continually be rejected from membership. So it's a question of what do you think Turkey's strategy will be in the next 2 years as far as where it will try to look toward for influence? And
Professor, I'm very grateful that you reminded us about this issue, this problem. Turkey is part of Europe. Turkey's directions were towards the west. But we are, as I have already mentioned, a bridge. Therefore, Turkey is a patchwork of everything. And this is part of our strength, certainly. But in the European Union, unfortunately, there is a tendency of not accepting any other culture to their exclusive club. So the club itself seems to be for Christians only, which is the biggest mistake that our European friends are making actually. If they want the European Union to be strong, to be everlasting, to expand, they need a country such as Turkey. Because Turkey, a secular Muslim country of a different culture, but this will add to the strength of Europe. This is a message that we are trying to give to the Europeans. There are a lot of political considerations, unfortunately, and also there is the influence of one of them, which is traditionally anti-Turk. So anytime in one of the institutions of the European Union we start discussing about Turkey, they have to object. Whatever the issue, you see, the main purpose is to object. Therefore, it took us more than normal to get to adhere fully to the European Union. But we are an associate member of the European Union. And by the end of this year, we shall have a custom union with the European Union. These are big steps forward. These are steps to get our integration, to solidify our integration. And personally, I believe that the Europeans will be unable to set Turkey aside. They cannot afford this luxury.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you have a European Union and you want to be credible toward dealing with other places of the world, to bring in Turkey would give a lot of backing to that. Something else you mentioned, you talked about integration and the patchwork of Turkey. And my research is on various Turkic minorities in China, and I know that those refugees who left China or who have left some of the Central Asian republics who have settled in Turkey are, in a sense, redefined, because as members, as Turkic peoples, they are Turks, and that minority status isn't really recognized. I think some of the minorities of Turkey there have been some problems over the years, some extremely serious, about that minority status and being recognized or given some kind of special status. What is going on, especially in terms of particularly the Kurds in the eastern part of the country, where they're straddling Syria and Iraq and part of an international situation?
Yeah, this is yet another very pertinent question. Turkey is like the United States of America. When I said a patchwork, we are composed of people of various ethnic origins. But we do not question, we do not think when we address to each other, what's your ethnic origin? It's something which is taken for granted. A Turk is a Turk, irrespective of his or her ethnic origin. This is something that I want to stress. Secondly, minorities in Turkey are only one or two, not too many minorities. Speaking about those of a Turkic origin, when they come, when they are adopted and they have the Turkish citizenship, they fully enjoy of their constitutional rights. They are fully fledged Turkish citizens. As to the Kurds, they are like Tamer and myself or any other Turk. There is no distinction made insofar as their constitutional rights, their human rights, whatever. They are Turkish citizens, full stop. Thus, they can be elected to the parliament. They can be assigned to any governmental state organizations without any distinction. Were they in the status of a minority, they wouldn't have enjoyed those privileges. It would have been against their interest to be considered as a minority group in Turkey.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, maybe what we need to elaborate here, when somebody comes to talk to me or you in the name of Mustafa or Ahmed or somebody, there's really no way that we can know that this person, grandfather or father or mother, was Kurdish. We have no idea. There are no distinctive physical features for us to know.
Sure. Tell me about your mother and father. Where did they come?
Well, my father immigrated to southern Turkey from Cyprus, and his ancestor was sent to Cyprus in 16th century, and my mother's family is from southern Greece.
That's it. My father comes from the Caucasus, and my mother comes from the Balkans, so I am a Turk. I have never thought about where they came.
Like, you know, if I wanted to discriminate against a Kurdish origin Turk, I wouldn't know where to look for. So that is, I think that is probably important for our listeners to know.
Yeah, there is only a minority of Kurds who are living outside of Turkey, who are being supported by countries such as Syria, Iraq, sometimes Iran, and so on. And Armenia also is one of them. What happens? What do they want? They claim themselves as being a Marxist, Leninist, communist. Marxist-Leninist terror organization. This is a terrorist organization, terrorist group, recognized as such by the U.S. administration, by the European countries, and by us.
And also, you know, we should mention that Amnesty International recently has been very critical of PKK.
Because what they want is to carve out some pieces of territories from southeastern part of Turkey, from northern part of Iraq, from somewhat from Syria, they were protectors, and so on, and to create a state whereby we shall have another Soviet Union on our borders. This is this kind of mentality, and they want to obtain it through the use of force, but terrorist force. And they kill indiscriminately, and we are fighting against them. When we fight against a terrorist group, this is a fight which is carried out by Israel, by the United States of America, whenever it happens, by any other, by England, by any other country.
Ireland, yes.
Certainly. But this should not be construed as something that we are doing against their human rights. There is this confusion in the mind of the people in this country and elsewhere. When we start talking about our fight against the Kurdish terror, they said, oh, the poor Kurds who have been oppressed by Saddam, who fled the country, who came as refugees here and there. As refugees to the Kurdish people, to the Iraqis of a Kurdish origin, we have provided more than enough. We have provided them shelters, we have provided them food, everything that we could afford within the framework of our meager budgetary resources. So we are all in favor of helping them, assisting them, which we do even nowadays.
In this context, I'd like you to talk about the southeastern Anatolia project, the system of dams that's being constructed, which is influencing perhaps the water relations, water rights with Syria, with Iraq, and influencing Kurdish populated areas. Is this one move in the development of this area that might be helping the Kurds develop?
Maybe before you go into that, maybe while you're discussing this particular area, maybe you could incorporate how the Gulf War affected in this area also, and the embargo on Iraq, because that is all interconnected, so that, you know, water, embargo on Iraq and trade with Iraq and so on.
I will answer both questions at the same time because they are interrelated, as you indicate. The water issues in Turkey, it is true that we are a water-rich country, but the water we have is not a water to be spent just like that, because the water is becoming more and more scarce. And particularly in southeastern part of Turkey, where part of our citizens of a Kurdish origin are living, not all of them. Be careful, because most of the Turkish citizens of a Kurdish origin now, they are living in the western part of Turkey, in the big cities such as Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, and so on. So, urban centers. So for those who have been living in southeastern part of Turkey, where the economic conditions are relatively poorer, then the governments throughout the years have started to invest very heavily to have an irrigation scheme which will improve their economic conditions. And this is the reason why we have started with the most ambitious project, as we call it, South Anatolian Irrigation Project, or GAP, G-A-P. And through this project, we are going to build, if I am not mistaken, more than 17 dams and 21 hydroelectric power plants, stations, so that the southeastern Anatolia will be one of the wealthiest regions in Turkey. And this will improve the quality of life over there. But these PKK terrorists are not happy with it. You know why? They are just coming and killing the village instructors, teachers. We send teachers to small villages so that the children are being educated properly. They come and they kill precisely those teachers, and it is in the reports of the Helsinki Watch and Amnesty International condemning this attitude. Why are they doing it? Because they do not want the people to become educated, to know what they are aiming at, you see, because the more the people will start thinking, the more they will understand that what the PKK terrorists are doing is against their long-term interest. They don't want to create such a situation, and they are not happy with the improvement of the quality of their life. Coming to the Gulf War, at the outset of the Gulf War, Turkey was one of the first countries, if not the first, to come out and to help to assist the United States and others, because this was in keeping with our principles to stop an aggressor, wherever this aggressor might be. And in this case, it was Iraq. With Iraq, before the Gulf crisis, we had bilateral trade relations which amounted to more than $2 billion. It was a huge amount. And our small businesses, particularly in southeastern part of Anatolia, were living out of the transit traffic trade, transit traffic through the Turkish territories toward Iraq and other Gulf countries. And we had the Iraqi-Turkish pipeline, out of which we were also buying our own oil and charging fees, covering royalties, about $250 million a year. This is a good amount of money for us, for the Turkish economy. It is an addition. And with this Gulf War, everything is stopped at a standstill. And after so many years that everybody is just thinking now in terms of other issues in the world and that this chapter is over, Turkey is still suffering.
So how much do you think that Turkey's loss mounted over the 4 years?
Over the 4 years, we have lost more than $20 billion economically. This is a huge amount for us. And really, Turkish economy cannot sustain any more of these losses. Furthermore, those people, the small businesses and so on, who were just gaining some money and making their daily life out of it, they are jobless. And for jobless people, it is very easy to get them into the ranks of terrorists because they have nothing to lose. Either they starve or you give them $100 and they join your ranks. You see? And this is a situation which is also providing some sort of indirect assistance to the terrorism, to the terrorist activities.
I know there's pressure from several countries to end the blockade and the boycott on Iraq, especially in terms of oil, particularly from Russia and France, I think, as well, that have invested in those pipelines and want to get some of their money out. Now that Saddam has moved troops, over 80,000 troops, back to the Kuwaiti border, pulled them back again, do you think those pressures should continue and Turkey must essentially bear the brunt of this boycott, or can something else happen that...
You know, Turkey, being a member of a civilized international community of nations, democratically, was just following the provisions of the UN Security Council resolutions. And we always told Iraq that they have to abide by those provisions. And the moment we see that they have done everything they have been asked for, we see no reason why we should make the individuals in the street who have nothing to do with the decision-making process in Iraq to go on suffering. So their suffering is not human. Why should we do it if we have accomplished our aim by just having Iraq under some sort of a control? And what Turkey is saying, let's be careful. The moment the UN Security Council resolutions are fulfilled, then we have to think about lifting the embargo. But on this, we have a consultation process with the US administration and other coalition partners. And we also ask the flushing out of the existing Turkish-Iraqi pipeline. Why? Because the pipeline is corroding. The pipeline will be lost, and we have invested very heavily on this pipeline. We wanted to save it. And the moment we come up for this flushing out idea, everybody says, the Turks, they are now going against the sanctions. We are not going against the sanctions.
Why I think that maybe at this juncture it is important to bring out the fact that a lot of trading between Jordan and Iraq goes on, and everybody is kind of turning their head against it, and they are not making big fuss about Iraqi-Jordanian trade because I think that they wish to reward Jordan for their cooperation in progressing the Middle East peace.
And nobody wants to reward Turkey for cooperation. And we were not expecting this reward at any rate. Let me tell you, because we have done it out of a principled stance, you see. But no reward, but no injustice at the same time.
Let me ask you, when you're talking about the embargo on Iraq, maybe are there any discussion, maybe incremental lifting of the embargo? Maybe total embargo would not be lifted, but maybe some trade be allowed through the Turkish border. That would be some incentive to Iraq and also some reward to Turkey for cooperating.
Speaking about lifting of the embargo, I don't want to single out Turkey. if there is an international action to be taken, this international action should really be international. And Turkey will certainly be one subcomponent of it, and we'll start with whatever we can. So without singling out Turkey, certainly some sort of alternatives can well be thought of. And in the consideration of those alternatives, we'll certainly go with the United Nations and other countries involved. Nevertheless, let's not be categorical in our approaches. Let's be flexible, let's be pragmatic sometime, and at the moment we see that our wills were just taken into consideration by Iraq, do whatever we have to do.
I have a question. On your lapel, I assume that's a pin of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk.
Yeah.
And one of the, I recently saw a program in which a commentator was making an analogy between the secularism that Ataturk brought to Turkey and the rumblings and sometimes quite volatile incidents of religious fundamentalism, such as in Sivas, where authors were burned in a hotel fire and many died, that is somewhat similar to the Shah of Iran's move of secularizing Iran, and there was speculation that there could be a backlash. Not that it's the same type of Islam, the same type of fundamentalism, same type of orthodox religious movement, but that when you try to secularize too much against an established religious movement and practice, that it can come back again. Is there any fear of that in Turkey, and what is being done about that?
Let's discuss the secularism versus fundamentalism, because I guess that we shall be running out of time, and this is yet another item which is very important. Turkey is a secular country since 1923. Therefore, we did not start with this secularism, say, 2 decades ago. All right? It is now more than 70 years that we are in it. And secularism is one of the main pillars of the new Turkish Republic. This is a sine qua non condition for our republic. And people, in the mind of the people, secularism is quite well rooted, deeply rooted. But certainly, we are surrounded by countries whereby the Turkish democracy, Turkish secularism, Turkish free market economy are not good examples. They are not happy with us. And because this is against their own policy. I'm not talking about one country now, a number of countries around us. And therefore, whenever they find the possibility, they certainly support some sort of anti-secularist activities. And the incidents in Sivas was one of those activities of the people who are anti-secular. But Turkey is 60 million. And those who are against secularism are minimal. Their number is minimal. And now Turkey has passed the point of no return. We cannot come back to the years 1920s. And the democracy is also another main pillar of Turkey today. And therefore, I think that secularism will survive in Turkey. It should survive, and we, the Turkish people, will see to it that it survives. As to fundamentalism and whether or not Turkey may become yet another Algeria or another Iran or whatever, no, Turkey will not become another Algeria, will not become another Iran, because Turkey has been experiencing democracy for so long that the system itself will find the antidotes for those viruses, so to speak.
Maybe you should comment about the role of military in this particular area.
I will do that, but at any rate, the message I want to give is that Turkey will not become a fundamentalist state, but being a democracy, we have people who think from the far right to the extreme left. You see, it is quite natural. We have a multitude of political parties, and everybody is free to think his own way, and is free to vote according to his own convictions. And it doesn't mean that if sometime during a general election or by-election one party got more than enough vote, this party is going to come in power. No, there are some protest votes which are expressed during those elections. And it doesn't mean that Turkey is shifting from one extreme to the other extreme. Turkey will be in the center, center-right, center-left, and nowadays we have a coalition government composed of center-right and center-left parties. And Turkey will be going on this path. There might be some variations, but always within the framework of democracies. As to the role of the militaries do believe firmly in secularism. Militaries are the guarantors of the Turkish constitution, but militaries in Turkey have never been in politics, and they have no intention of getting involved with domestic political issues. Yeah. They are in their barracks, they protect Turkey, this is their role, and I am sure that they are cognizant, fully cognizant of this role, and they are not doing anything else but play the role required by the Constitution from them.
Also, I think that they have demonstrated ability of cleanse themselves from any different political movement, whether it is leftist or religious and whatever. They were able to clean their ranks up on their own, and they have done quite a good job in that regard. So that is really a safeguard in Turkish military.
That's correct. This is only a safeguard, but they have nothing to do with the Turkish political system, you see.
Is this to say that the era of coups that occurred from 60 to 80 has ended? You think that it's...
Completely. The era of coups has ended, and everybody knows what is exactly his role, and this will be going on like this.
Well, I think that I'd like to change the subject to a little bit to trade right now, and especially trade with United States. Now, when we listen to the news, and we are always hearing how we have to kind of argue with Japanese and United States to how they're selling to United States more than they're buying, and how they have to open their markets. How has been Turkey's relationship with the United States in terms of trade? That is one. Second thing, how could Turks play a role going into business, joint ventures with the United States companies into newly opening markets in Central Asia?
Listen, Turkey and the United States are two free countries with free trade, free everything. So it is only competition which plays a role. If we are competitive, we the Turks are competitive in terms of our quality of goods that we are going to offer, more and more. What
Anthropology at Fulbright University. With us we have today His Excellency Ambassador Nuzhet Kandemir, Ambassador of Turkey to the United States. At the end of our program, hoşça kalınız. Thank you.
Okay.